Hi, my name is Alfred Castillo. I'm a student at Florida International University, doing a master's in science in management information systems. What I'll be doing with you today is I'm going to be going over how to configure ACLs on a Cisco router. Cisco router we're going to be using is a 2691, and this is what our environment looks like. This environment I pre-configured, and I did it here in our GNS3 application. Drawn out for you so you can kind of get an understanding on what we're trying to do here. There's a provider router, that's the outside world, that's someone we're connecting to. It's not really someone we're worried about how to configure. We're worried more of our internal network router. In our environment, our internal network, we have a border router which is connected to our provider, and it's also connected on the right to our SAS environment and on the left to our DMZ environment. Now, obviously, this is a very simplified network, but we have very limited time to go over this. And I'd like to get started. So let's take a look first at our IP configuration. This is our internal router, and these are the three networks that it's connected to, and these are the IPs configured to these. Now, these were actually pre-configured, so let's take a look at the configurations really quick. Show run, this is the provider router. All that should be configured on him is a serial interface and BGP. I think I configured. That's it. Okay. Scrolled right past it, but let's take a look. Okay, serial 00 is configured with a 26 IP and a 252 mask, which corresponds to /30. And then its BGP autonomous system number is 200, and it knows it has a neighbor on .25 with a autonomous system number 100. Okay, very basic configuration. Now let's take a look at our internal router and see what we have so far. Okay, pre-configured. It looks like we set up our fast Ethernet 00, which is on the left side. If you look over here, fast Ethernet 00 is on the left towards the DMZ zone with a 254 IP with a 255, 255, 255 mask. Okay, and 000, which is how we connect to the outside world, is .25, which is on our diagram, and it's a 252 mask corresponding to the /30. Fast Ethernet 01 is on the right side going to the SAS environment, and that's a 202, 254. Yep, everything's configured right. Internal routing protocol, exterior routing protocol for our internal network is BGP. Our autonomous system number is 100. We're advertising these two networks, and we're aware of our remote neighbor with autonomous system number 200. So you should know about our BGP routes through B. Yep, B does. Okay, so this is fully routable right now. I exited out of the provider router because there's really nothing for us to configure there at this point. So I'm going to just go ahead and close that and focus on our router, our internal router. Okay, what are the things that we're going to be configuring? Well, ACLs are very important in routers because they provide you with a very basic packet filtering process. Usually you'll have firewalls that will provide that function for you in more detail, but at a very basic level, you should have some sort of filtering on your routers as well, because well, security is king, so the more layers you have, the better. Some people argue that it affects with performance, but you know, as long as you keep your rules clean, and in order from most restrictive to least restrictive, then that should mitigate majority of performance issues that could be created. Now let's talk about the DMZ. DMZs is typically your most outward facing network, demilitarized zone. Usually there's not really much between the DMZ and the outside world besides maybe one firewall or a router or something. So it's pretty exposed. In this setup though, we have both our SAZ and our DMZ connecting straight to the router. But you know, it typically wouldn't be designed this way. And your SAZ, your secure access zone, would have an additional layer of security between the outside world and your internal network. It would still be more exposed in your internal network, but it'd be more secure than, say, the DMZ would. Alright, so kinds of devices we're going to be having in this fake environment. In the DMZ, we're going to be having our web servers, Exchange servers, SMTP servers, FTP servers, things like that. On the SAZ, Secure Access Zone, we're actually going to have, we can make it up at this point, but we'll have maybe some SQL servers there, or Oracle servers, something providing services to DMZ, the DMZ web servers, for example. So the outside world should not have to talk to the SAZ directly. The outside world should basically only be accessing our DMZ infrastructure, which would be email, stuff like that. So at a very good starting point would probably be configuring the outside interface. So let's talk about S00. Okay, what kind of things do we want to block there? We probably want to block everything except web services. We talked about FTP. We also talked about mail servers, and I think that's it. We probably don't want to allow telnet. And so let's use it as an example, something to block and things to allow. Although blocking is kind of interesting because there's an implicit denial at the end of any access control list that you write. So no matter what you write, as you go down the list, it will go from most restricted to least restricted, but at the end, there's always an implicit denial. So anything you do not allow ahead of that or above that, there's kind of a catch-all on the bottom by default. I think it was designed that way on purpose. So, but either way, we're going to configure it just so you get into the habit of knowing that there is the ability of denying something and then allowing everything versus having to specifically allow certain things and then implicitly deny everything else in the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create a